Good day, everyone. Again, you are watching math tutorials of Barroso siblings. Today, I'm going to discuss to you about inverse of a one-to-one function. Let me start this session by stating the objectives for today's session. At the end of this video, I'm expecting that you will be able to first illustrate a one-to-one function. Second, find inverse of a one-to-one function. And the last one is value accumulated knowledge as means of new understanding. Let me start this session by asking, what is a one-to-one function? A function is one-to-one if no two elements in the domain of f correspond to the same element in the range of f. What does it implies? It implies na hindi dapat nauulit si value ng x at wala dapat nauulit na value ng y. Let's have an example. This is in a tabular form. As you can see, on the values of x, walang nauulit na value. Unlike sa y, may naulit na value ng y. Ano po yun? As you can see, may naulit na 9 at may naulit na 6. Since may naulit na values ng y, which are 9 and 6, therefore, hindi unique ang value ng y. It implies that this is not a one-to-one function. Let's have another example. This is again in a tabular form. Let's take a look on x. The x values are -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. As you can notice, the values of x are unique. Let's take a look on values of y. The values of y are -8, -1, 0, 1, 8, and 27. As you can see, hindi rin po naulit ang value ng y. It implies, since the values of x and y are unique, it implies that this is a one-to-one function. Let's have a real-life situation. For instance, the relation of pairing an SSS member to his or her SSS number. Ang unang tanong natin dyan, pwede bang magkaroon ng dalawang SSS number ang isang tao? Hindi. Kasi, nag-generate to ng computer kapag meron ka ng data doon sa SSS, hindi ka na pwedeng bigyan pa ng another SSS number. The same thing with, hindi naman pwedeng magkaroon ng isang SSS number ang dalawang tao. Since unique ang value ng x at since unique ang value ng y, which are the SSS member and SSS number, it implies that this situation is a one-to-one function. Let's have another example. The relation of pairing a real number to its square. For instance, real number represents for x, while its square represents for y. For instance, the values of x are -2, -1, 1, and 2. For the value of y, since the value of y is just simply the squared of the value of x, we need to get the squared of the values of x. -2 squared is 4. -1 squared is 1. 1 squared is also 1, and 2 squared is also 4. Let's map this one. -2 for 4, -1 for 1, 1 is also for 1, and 2 is also for 4. As you can see, the values of x are unique since hindi nauulit ang value ng x. However, the value of y is not unique. Why? Kasi nauulit ang value. Kapag in-squared natin ang -2, ang sagot 4. Pag in-squared natin ang 2, ang sagot ay also 4. It implies, since hindi unique ang value ng y, it implies that this is not a one-to-one function. Let's have a graph. In graph, what we need to do or we need to use is the vertical line test and at the same time, the horizontal line test. The horizontal line test is used para ma-check natin kung may nauulit bang value kay y. Si vertical line test naman, ginagamit para makita natin kung may nauulit na value kay x. Let's try the horizontal line test. Habang ginagalaw natin yung line, makikita natin na may nauulit na value ng y. For instance, this is the horizontal line test. Ibig sabihin, may nauulit na value ng y dito. So, ibig sabihin, y values are not unique. Let's try the vertical line test. As you can see, habang gumagalaw yung line, walang nauulit na value ng x. Since yung y is not unique or y values are not unique, it implies that this graph is not a one-to-one function. Let's try another example. Let's start with the horizontal line test. Mapapansin natin na walang naulit na value ng y habang ginagalaw natin yung line or yung horizontal line. Let's now have the vertical line test. Habang ginagalaw natin yung vertical line, wala rin nauulit na value ng x. Since the values of x and y are unique, therefore this graph is a one-to-one function. Now, since you already learned how to determine if the given situation, tabular form, or graph is represents a one-to-one function or not, now, the next topic that we need to discuss is about the inverse of a one-to-one function. May inverse lang ang given function if this is a one-to-one function. The steps are, first, write function in the form y equals f of x. Second, interchange the x and y variables. And the third one will be solve for y in terms of x. Let's have an example. Find the inverse of linear function f of x equals 6x minus 5. Since this function is a linear function, it implies that this is a one-to-one function. Since this is a one-to-one function, it implies that it has its inverse. So let's start applying the steps in finding the inverse of a one-to-one function. The first step is change f of x into y. So we're going to have y equals 6x minus 5. After that, we're going to interchange y and x. Instead of writing y, we will be writing x. And instead of writing x, we will be writing y. So therefore, y will become x and x will become y. After that, we need to find the value of y. Since we need to find the value of y, kailangan may matirang y lang po dito sa side na to. So therefore, yung negative 5, kailangan natin siyang ilipat sa kabila. So by transposing, negative 5 will become positive 5 is equal to 6y. Now, since y lang ang kailangan nating makuha, kung ano yung katabi ng y, we need to divide both sides. So therefore, cancel 6. So y is equal to x plus 5 over 6. Now, the last step is we're going to change y into its inverse. So it will become f raised to negative 1 of x is equal to x plus 5 over 6. So this is the inverse function of the function f of x equals 6x minus 5. Now I'm going to teach you the technique. This technique is only applicable for linear function and rational function. However, in rational function, there is a condition. P of x and Q of x has a degree of 0 or 1. Again, in rational function, it is only applicable if P of x and Q of x have a degree of polynomial which are 0 or 1. The technique will be this one. We have f of x equals ax plus b over cx plus d. Now, to get its inverse, what are we going to do is to write the inverse f raised to negative 1 of x is equal to, we're going to interchange d and a and then just simply copy b and cx. So it will be negative dx plus b over cx minus a. So kung mapapansin natin, si d at si a pinagpalit lang at ninegate lang po natin. Si a, yun yung numerical coefficient ni x sa taas or sa numerator. Si b is the constant term on the numerator. C is the numerical coefficient of x on the denominator. And d is the constant term on the denominator. Let's have this example, y equals 6x minus 5. Since there is an invisible 1 on the denominator of 6x minus 5, let's write the value of a. The value of a is 6 because that's the numerical coefficient of x. And the value of d is equal to 1. Why? This is the constant term on the denominator. Now, we're going to use this pattern. So we're going to write the inverse function f raised to negative 1 of x equals, we're going to have negative d. Since our d is 1, so it will be negative x. Invisible 1 po si x, yung numerical coefficient ni x. Copy plus b. Since your b is negative 5, we will just simply copy negative 5. And then cx. Since wala ka namang cx dito sa ating example, we will be proceeding to negative a. Since ang a natin is 6, so therefore it will be negative 6. What did you notice? Lahat ng term may negative. So therefore, by simplifying this, it will become this one. The inverse function f raised to negative 1 of x equals to x plus 5 over 6. So as you can notice, pwede tayong sumunod sa mismong steps in finding the inverse of a one-to-one function, but you can also apply this form pattern or technique. Let's have another example. Find the inverse of linear function f of x equals x over 3 minus 4. Let's apply the steps. Let's change f of x into y. Nag-proceed tayo sa step since this function is a linear function and it implies that this is a one-to-one function. So let's have y equals x over 3 minus 4. After that, we're going to interchange y and x. So it will become, instead of writing y, it will be x. Instead of writing x, it will become y over 3 minus 4. Simplifying this equation, we're going to multiply this by its LCD. And the LCD is 3. So let's have the divide-multiply process. X has denominator 1, and 4 has also denominator of 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3 times x is 3x. 3 divided by 3 is 1 times y is equal to y. 3 divided by 1 is 3 times 4 is 12. So you have 3x equals y minus 12. After that, we need to find the value of y. Since ito po yung y, kailangan nating alisin yung kanyang katabi by just simply transposing negative 12 to the other side. So it will become 3x plus 12 is equal to y. Now, after finding the value of y, we're going to change y into f raised to negative 1 of x. So it will become f raised to negative 1 of x equals to 3x plus 12. And this is the inverse of the given function. Now, if you want to apply the pattern or the technique, in this example, we need to simplify this one. So it will become f of x equals to, get the LCD is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1 times x is x. Minus 3 divided by 1 is 3 times 4 is 12. So therefore, the simplified form will become x minus 12 over 3. Now let's identify the value of a. The value of a is the numerical coefficient of x on the numerator. Since ito po yung x, ang numerical coefficient niya ay 1. Let's find the constant term on the denominator, and that represents d. The constant term on the denominator is 3. So we're going to have d equals 3. Now, by applying the pattern f raised to negative 1 of x equals to negative dx plus b over cx minus a, we will just simply substitute all the values. So it will become f raised to negative 1 of x equals to negative d. Your d is 3, so it will become negative 3x plus b. Your b is negative 12, so it will become 3x minus 12 over cx. Since wala tayong cx on our example or on our given function, therefore wala po tayong gagawin. Next, minus a. Your a is 1, so it will become negative 1. As you can see, lahat merong negative sign. So by just simplifying this one, negative 3x divided by negative 1, it will become 3x. And negative 12 divided by negative 1, it will become plus 12. So therefore, the simplified form is also this one. The inverse function f raised to negative 1 of x equals 3x plus 12. What does it implies? Ibig sabihin, pwede kang gumamit ng steps in finding the inverse of a one-to-one function. You can also use this technique kung linear or rational function yung binigay or given function. But just always remember the rational function, there is a consideration or condition. The p of x and q of x have a degree of polynomial of 0 or 1. Let's have another example. Find the inverse of the rational function f of x equals 7x minus 9 over 4x minus 10. We're going to change f of x into y. It will become y equals 7x minus 9 over 4x minus 10. After that, we're going to change y into x and x into y. So y will become x and x will become y. So it will be 7y minus 9 over 4y minus 10. After that, we need to simplify this equation. So we need to multiply by its LCD, and the LCD is 4y minus 10. So 4y minus 10 divided by 1 is 4y minus 10. So we need to multiply that by x. So let's have x times 4y minus 10 equals 4y minus 10 divided by 4y minus 10. The answer is 1. So therefore, times 7y minus 9, the answer is itself, 7y minus 9. Now we need to distribute x inside the parentheses. So x times 4y is equal to 4xy. Then x times negative 10 is negative 10x. Equals, bring down 7y minus 9. After that, we need to combine on the other side the value or the term with y. For xy, may y to, so retain to. Yung negative 10x walang y, so we need to transpose this to the other side. 7y may y, so therefore kailangan natin siyang ilipat sa kabila. And negative 9 is a constant term at wala tong y, retain po siya dito sa side na to. So therefore, it will become 4xy minus 7y equals to negative 10x, ililipat natin, will become 10x minus 9. Now, we need to factor 4xy minus 7y. So, ilalabas natin yung y, it will become y, quantity 4x minus 7 is equal to 10x minus 9. After that, since kailangan natin makuha yung value ng y, at may katabi pa siya, at ang katabi niya is quantity 4x minus 7, therefore, we need to divide both sides by 4x minus 7. After that, we're going to cancel 4x minus 7. Therefore, it will become y equals 10x minus 9 over 4x minus 7. We need to change y into f raised to negative 1 of x. So, it will become f raised to negative 1 of x equals to 10x minus 9 over 4x minus 7. Next, so we already have the inverse function of the function 7x minus 9 over 4x minus 10. Let's apply the pattern. So, we have a equals 7 and b which is equal to negative 10. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to write first the pattern. F raised to negative 1 of x equals to negative dx plus b over cx minus a. So, we're going to substitute the value of a, which is 7, and the value of d, which is equal to negative 10. So, what are we going to do? Instead of writing d, we're going to write negative 10. So, we will be having negative times negative 10 is 10. So, it will be 10x. We're going to copy b. And the b is equal to negative 9. So, minus 9 over cx. We will just simply copy cx, and that's 4x. And then, we're going to have minus a. Your a is 7. So, we have minus 7. So, as you can see, we got the same answer. Ang haba ng solution natin in using the steps in finding the inverse of a one-to-one function. However, using the technique, pinagpalit lang natin yung value ng a at saka yung value ng d at ninegate po natin. And that's it. Let's try another example. For instance, this one. Let's use only the technique. Let's write the value of a. Your a is equal to 1. Because a represents the numerical coefficient of x on the numerator. Ito si x at ang numerical coefficient niya is 1. Then, we need to find the value of d. As you can see, d is equal to 0. Why? Because d represents the constant term on the denominator. Now, let's write the pattern or the technique. Negative dx plus b over cx minus a. So, let's substitute. Let's have f raised to negative 1 of x equals, since d is equal to 0, wala na ngayon tayong ilalagay kay negative dx. So, we're going to copy plus b. Your b is equal to 12. So, therefore, we're going to have 12 over cx. Your cx is this one, 2x. So, therefore, we will be having 2x minus a. Your a is 1. So, we're going to have minus 1. So, therefore, the inverse of the given function f of x equals x plus 12 over 2x is 12 over 2x minus 1. Let's have another example. Let's write the value of a. Your a is equal to what? Very good. That is 0. Why? Kasi wala namang x variable sa numerator. So therefore, a is equal to 0. Your d is equal to negative 6 because that is the constant term on the denominator. Now, let's copy the technique or the pattern. F raised to negative 1 of x equals negative dx plus b over cx minus a. Let's substitute the given value. Instead of writing d, we're going to write negative 6. Since we have negative here, negative times negative 6 is equal to 6. So therefore, it will become 6x. Then copy plus b. Your b is equal to 5. So therefore, we're going to have plus 5 over cx. Your cx, yung value na ito, which is 9x, minus a. Since ang a mo ay 0, wala ka nang ilalagay. Therefore, the inverse of the given function is equal to 6x plus 5 over 9x. Let's have another example. Find the inverse of the rational function f of x equals 3 over 2x minus 4. First thing that we need to do, we need to simplify 3 over 2x minus 4. So we have f of x equals, the least common denominator is 2x. So 2x divided by 2x, that's 1, times 3, the answer is 3. Then 2x divided by 1 is 2x times 4, the answer is 8. So we have negative 8x. You can also do this one. You can identify the value of a, b, c, and d. A again is the numerical coefficient of x on the numerator. In our example, the numerical coefficient of x on the numerator is negative 8. B is the constant term on the numerator, and that's 3. C is the numerical coefficient of x on the denominator, and that's 2. And D is the constant term. Since wala tayong constant term on the denominator, D equals 0. Now, let's write the pattern or the technique. F raised to negative 1 of x equals to negative dx plus b over cx minus a. So let's substitute. It will become f raised to negative 1 of x equals negative d. Since your d is equal to 0, therefore mawawala na ito. Plus b. Your b is equal to 3, so just copy 3. Over c. Your c is 2. So instead of writing c, we're going to write 2. So we have 2x minus a. Your a is negative 8. If we're going to multiply minus times negative 8, it will become plus 8. So therefore, the inverse of the given function f of x equals 3 over 2x minus 4 is 3 over 2x plus 8. And this is the final answer. So that's all for today's discussion. I hope you've learned a lot for today's lesson. Thank you and happy math learning. So just simply subscribe, like, and share our math tutorials. Kung meron po kayong topic na gustong nyong i-discuss namin for this video, just comment down below. Thank you and God bless everyone.